Alright guys, so we're back. Today we have a video. I did a video very similar to this a few months ago, but today we have 99.9% confirmation. The Supercross series is done. Now, we will get to that a little bit later in the video, but before we get to the confirmation and how I know this, or basically 99.9% know it, I want to talk about why, and I also would be curious to hear what you guys think. So when a new game comes out, we see the negatives of what people think, we see the positives and all that stuff, but with Milestone having basically dropped MXGP without really even saying anything, I mean, I reached out to him, got some word, and I showed you in a video, but if I hadn't reached out to him, maybe some of you guys have talked to him on their social, but most of the time they don't really respond to people. They don't really talk and say much. They put a post out, people say stuff, give criticism, praise, whatever it might be, and then they just don't say much. They don't really talk. You know, Rainbow Studios, MX vs. ATV, very vocal, listens to the community, talks to people, but here, Milestone, not so much. So aside from reaching out to them, getting a statement that they weren't going to do MXGP right now, it was still very vague. They didn't really say much, but we didn't get MXGP 2022. Probably won't get MXGP 2023, and probably won't be getting an MXGP game for a while. Unless they decide to pick up the MXGP license again, probably won't be getting that game. Supercross, kind of in limbo. No official word or confirmation from Milestone, and probably won't get one. You know, it probably, if they don't do Supercross, it'll be very similar to what they did with MXGP, where they just don't say anything. Unless somebody asks or reaches out, they won't say much. So Milestone hasn't really said anything in the way of, we're done with dirt bike games completely, but I said this in the first video we did, the writing has been on the walls for a while. So Supercross 1 put a bunch of effort into it, was a great game. Supercross 2 was a pretty good game. Maybe not a bunch different from 1, but it was a pretty good game. And then they went pretty all in and really redid Supercross for Supercross 3, and it was a great game. In my opinion, the best Supercross game they've ever done. And while I thought Supercross 6 here was a fun game and one of my favorites, yes, the physics, the way the game plays is very similar to the way it's always been. The reason I enjoyed this game is because the tiniest of adjustments to the physics I thought were better. Tracks were awesome. The inside berms, the way the tracks played on the 250 or the 450 were really fun. But the rest of the game kind of sucked. It really did. Track editor sucked. Career sucked. It was the same. The futures races were identical. The way the career had been that way for a few years, a couple years, and then the customization was bad. The AI in the beginning were really, really bad. Some of the worst AI I've ever seen. Now, they are better after a few patches, but it didn't even feel like the effort that Milestone was putting into the Supercross and MXGP series was minimal. Supercross 4, Supercross 5, even Supercross 6, very similar, missing features, just, it's like putting the least amount of development and money into the game, but still expecting to get a $60 return for each copy. It just felt lazy, cash grabby, greedy, whatever you want to call it. I get why they were doing it. They probably were doing it because the series was falling off, but the reason the series was falling off is because nothing was happening. After Supercross 3, virtually no changes, and it was going backwards, you know? I want Milestone to succeed. I want Milestone to make a great dirt bike game, but it just wasn't happening. It really wasn't. It was just, I mean, with MXGP, we were getting a bunch of stuff where we didn't even get the features like first person and track editor and stuff until well after the game came out. So it's a bummer. The writing is on the wall that it feels like Supercross was done. Well, you should see an email popping up on screen now. I am going to leave the person that sent this to me anonymous because they were asking to be left anonymous, but you can see here, I'll leave it up on screen so you can read it, but this basically confirms that there won't be a Supercross game. In the email, it says that Milestone had no presence at the Supercross season or Supercross races last season. The riders were curious what was going on, and because they had become used to this, right? Every year they were used to getting their pictures taken and stuff for the game and whatnot, and then all of a sudden Milestone just isn't there. They don't say anything, they just aren't there. So it isn't just with us about letting us know whether a game is going to be coming or not. They seem to do it with pretty much everybody. And then it also says there was somebody that did the photos and stuff for them the year before, or usually had been doing them. They're left anonymous as well, but they said that Milestone was done. They were focusing on a new direction and just weren't going to be doing Supercross. Now, it doesn't mean we won't get a dirt bike game from Milestone, but basically, I will say 99.9 because there is a 0.1% chance that maybe something happens and changes, but almost 100% here that Milestone is done with MXGP, Supercross. Maybe they come back to it, I already said that, but for right now, Milestone is hanging it up with this stuff. They've got MotoGP. I don't really see them quitting that game. They did SBK22 last year. I don't know if they'll do it this year. They've got Ride coming out, Ride 5. It'll probably be a cool game, but I'll probably be a bit disappointed because I'm expecting them to not have any Supermoto in it. I don't know why. Ride 2 was awesome. The Supermoto was super fun. Ride 3 was really fun Supermoto, but then they had the Supermoto bikes, but they didn't have any tracks for it, so it just kind of sucked riding those bikes around those really long, fast tracks, right? So, I don't know. I mean, they've got Hot Wheels. I think Hot Wheels probably did good, and I just have this feeling that Milestone is going to do the same thing they did with MXGP and Supercross with Hot Wheels. They're going to release a game, a bunch of DLC for it, make minimal changes to it, and then burn it out until there's nothing left, right? Nobody wants to buy it anymore because it's exactly the same game with no changes from year to year. But it sucks. It really sucks. I hate that it is this way. I mean, Milestone, we've been talking to them on social and stuff, I mean us as the player base, telling them what we want, and they just refuse to do it. You know, we wanted free physics, and then Milestone made Supercross 3, and they're like, hey, you have free physics now, but we still have the same stick whip. You know, it's still that push-button canny whip. It isn't what we wanted, and I don't know, you know, they feel like they've been going backwards for a while, so it is what it is. It's unfortunate. What I really wanted Milestone to do was invest more time, obviously more money, more development, into making the game better from year to year, making improvement. It's not like I expected them to be there in 1 year. I mean, great if they are, but up to Supercross 3, I felt like there was progress. It felt like there was a chance that the games could get better. With MXGP3, I remember I went back and watched my first impressions with that game. Maybe it was a review, I don't remember. And I remember saying that it felt like Milestone was on the right road. It felt like someday they were going to make a game that was like really, really good, like perfect. That obviously hasn't happened yet, and they just, you know, ever since MXGP3 and even Supercross 3, things have not been great. And so I wanted to do this video because, I mean, I got that email shortly after I did the first video and just didn't have the time. I just haven't had the time. The passion for YouTube has been a little bit low lately, and, you know, I don't know. No sob story here, not trying to look for sympathy or anything. Just, I don't know. Passion just hasn't been there, and I don't know. I just didn't really know how I wanted to do the video, but this is how I decided to do it. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts and opinions and all that stuff? Do you believe that this is true and Supercross is done, MXGP is done, and Milestone is completely pulled out of dirt bike games? Maybe they come back to it, or do you think it's still gonna happen? I mean, with having no presence at the Supercross races the year before, it would be pretty hard for them to do it, but you never know. crazy things happen and, you know, whatever. But really curious to see what you guys think. It's disappointing, of course, to see the genre going backwards instead of forwards and less games being made and whatnot. But it is the way it is. It's just the way of the video games, I guess. So if they don't sell well, they don't do them. But that's also not our fault. It was Milestone for not putting the effort forth to make a good game. But you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. It really does mean a lot. And until the next video, take it easy.